Let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Samuel Polay, who writes, well, Disney's next live-action remake has been announced. A remake of their animated Hercules movie produced by the Russo brothers, no less. A few years ago, we saw 2 Hercules adaptations, one from The Rock, flop at the box office. So do you think that the nostalgia for Disney's admittedly loose take on the legend of Hercules will be enough for this to succeed? More importantly, who is going to play Hades? Oh, that's the big question. Because I don't think you're going to get... why am I freezing on... the actor's name who did the voice of Hades. Why am I freezing on the actor's name who did the voice of Hades? I'm freezing. I'm looking at his face. James Woods. I was going to say, he's got a high school named after him. I'm thinking in my head, he's got the high school named after him in Family Guy. What is that? Yeah, James Woods. James Woods does the voice of that and does it brilliantly. Okay, so just so you know, like, wait, what's this? They're making a live action Hercules? Yeah. So this comes from the Hollywood Reporter. Disney is going to zero to hero once more, putting into development a live action remake of its 1997 animated movie, Hercules. The studio has hired Dave Callahan, the action scribe who launched the Expendables franchise and wrote Marvel's upcoming Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, to pen the script. So there's a couple of interesting pieces of information in here. Number one, of course, is that the Russo brothers are going to be producing this. Secondly, though, we've got the guy who wrote Shang-Chi. He also did the original Expendables. So you know there's probably going to be a lot of action in this. They're probably going to go pretty action on this. Now, the most interesting thing to me here is that this is going to be an adaptation of the story that they used in the animated film. So it is going to be an adaptation. It's not just another random Hercules movie. This is a live action adaptation of that original thing. Couple of thoughts. Number one, I do really like the idea of doing this. You know, it's actually pretty good, and I like the idea of the Russos attached to it. Now, somebody asked me not too long ago, what would I think about them doing a live-action Hercules thing? And honestly, I said, I don't know that they'll do that. I don't know that this is the right movie to do that with. And yet, here they come out of the gate, and they are doing it. And it's like, you know what? You're doing it with the Russos. You're getting this guy ready. Okay, I'm intrigued. This is an interesting idea. That said, I'm a little bit skeptical at the moment. Because so far, the Russo brothers' new production company has put out 2 movies, and I haven't liked either of them. They put out 21 Bridges, and by the way, all their movies have some MCU connection. They put out 21 Bridges with Chadwick Boseman, which I thought was, frankly, a bad film. I thought that was a bad film. Then they put out Extraction with Chris Hemsworth that has mind-blowing, fantastic action in it. But when the bullets weren't flying, I thought it was a pretty damn poor movie. To be honest, that's just me. There are people who really appreciate it, and that's great. And I think the action's fantastic in it. But as a movie, I thought it was pretty poor. So I really would love to see them come out strong with this Hercules thing. The fact that they're going to this writer tells me they are going to go heavy on the action with it, which is an interesting approach to doing something like this. So, you know what? I'm not going to say I'm excited for this, but I am going to say, mark me down as being really intrigued. I think this is an intriguing sounding proposition. And the fact that we're going to see the Russo brothers getting involved with their production company helming up an animated film or a live action adaptation of an animated film, I think is pretty interesting at the very least. Rob, you hear about this. What do you think about the choice of doing a live action remake of their Hercules movie? And what do you think about the involvement of the Russo brothers and the writer that they picked?
I think it's all pretty rad, to be honest. I mean, I love this kind of mythology, and if they're gonna have gods of the underworld and the gods of Mount Olympus, and I mean, it could be cool. I just hope, you know, we've seen things like the Clash of the Titans remake, and it kind of goes into similar territory. I want it to be kick-ass, but I know it's still got to be Disney-esque. So that the tone of it's going to be what I'd be most interested in seeing how they're going to navigate. But I'm all for it. I mean, I when I was a kid, I loved the story of Hercules. I loved that whole milieu, and I think it could be a lot of fun. And if they're going to do it, it could kick ass. I just hope it's better than 28 Bridges?
21 Bridges.
21 Bridges?
28 Bridges is going to be the 7th sequel.
28 Bridges, 28 days and 28 Bridges later. 21 Bridges. I just hope that it's good, you know?
I'm going to give you an over-under number. All right. I'm going to give you an over and under. And I'm going to put this to you guys at home as well. Over under 35%. Over under 35% that the Russo brothers cast. Are you ready? Thor. That they cast Chris Hemsworth to play Hercules. Now, hear me out. Hear me out. The reason I'm going to set the number at 35%, which is a pretty high number, is because on every single one of the productions they've worked on so far, they've had connections to the MCU. They've worked with Chris Hemsworth in the MCU, and they just worked with him in Extraction. You're going to need an actor to play Hercules who can legitimately also lead, has the acting chops to legitimately lead a movie. Connection to the MCU, physically can kind of carry it off, and has the acting chops to carry a movie. It seems to me like the logical choice could very well be Chris Hemsworth. So Rob, I throw that number to you. Over under 35% that at the end of the day, they end up casting Chris Hemsworth to play Hercules.
Well, I think, look, the points you just raised are very salient points. And I think, yes, he can do comedy. You know, I'm sure that there's going to be a lightheartedness to this movie. It's not going to be grim and dark. Hercules is going to be kind of cracking wise. And I think Hemsworth with that, he's not just the physicality of it all. He's got those comedic chops. He's very winning presence on screen. And I think he's wanted to branch out into this. He can do kick-ass, but I'm going to go over 35%, John.
Okay.
I'm going to go over 35% because who else would you get? I mean, Chris Hemsworth playing Hercules to me is kind of a slam dunk.
Yeah, it kind of works. Now, I'm going to set another over-under for you. All right? You ready for this? So you guys at home, over under 35% that they end up getting Chris Hemsworth. Here's another over-under. The odds that they do this like the original animated movie as a cartoon, as a musical. I'm going to give you my line here. 12%. And I'll tell you why I'm setting the number that low. Disney has an adaptation coming out in Mulan that they got rid of the music. They did Beauty and the Beast, which made them ass loads of money, but one of the weaker parts of it was people didn't like the musical translation in the live action movie nearly as much as they liked it in the original animated one. Lion King, a lot of people, despite there was the animation stuff of it as well, but a lot of people weren't really big on the musical stuff, translations from the original one. I have a feeling that Disney's going to start to lean away from using the songs and the music and their stuff as we're seeing in Mulan. So I'm going to set the over-under at 12% that we actually get the songs from the original Hercules in there. Rob, over under 12% that they use the songs from the animated movie in this one.
I think there's got to be some songs in it, doesn't there?
I don't know. I don't think they're not doing it for Mulan.
Well,
so you can take over.
Well, the thing about Mulan is they're doing it as this historical epic.
That's true.
You know, the whole tone of it is, and I think with Hercules, I think that if they're gonna go of a more comedic, I could see it more Aladdin-esque than Mulan-esque.
That's a good. That's a good recent. That's a great example of a recent one where they did keep the music. You're right.
You know, but on the other hand, I have to say, with the Russo brothers, they could go more serious and more delve into that mythology. But I got to tell you, I just think if this is more humorous and lighthearted, like an Aladdin, you know, evocative of a period, and I think it could be kick-ass. And even if it had songs, I'd dig it, man.
And then that crosses over the question of can Chris Hemsworth sing? Can Chris Hemsworth do the song? So that's a good question. All right, guys, listen. We put the question to you. What do you think about this live-action Hercules adaptation from the animated film? You're right. There have been a couple of other Hercules films the last number of years, one of which, of course, was The Rock. Neither of them turned out to be all that great, but this will be an adaptation of the animated one. What do you guys think of that? And then remember, I want you guys to answer those over-unders. Over or under 35% that they get Chris Hemsworth to play this role, and then over or under 12% that they actually use the songs from the movie. I want to know what you guys think. Jump into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right.